Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Well, we are slowly working our way through the stories we find in the book of Exodus. And as we discuss the Exodus saga, we're looking for those helpful, practical lessons, those personal meanings, the metaphysical interpretations. We've discussed the concept that the Exodus is more than a series of stories about ancient people as they follow Moses out of their bondage in Egypt. The Exodus is about our personal journey from the bondage of sense consciousness through the transitions, the changes that we face in life. The Exodus is not a singular event. It is a process. Just as our journey of spiritual growth is a process. As we learn to trust our guidance, and as we learn the beneficial use of the law of mind action. Our personal Exodus trains our consciousness. It trains our minds to experience the freedom that we find escaping the bondage of our own useless and unnecessary suffering, and discover the fulfillment of the promised land, where we have what we want to have, do what we want to do, and experience what we want to experience. Our series title could be From Slavery to Freedom, and From Freedom to Fulfillment. Last week, we learned about the great I Am and how attaching our identity to empowering ideas can help us break free from the mere survival of sense consciousness. And as we continue to train our minds, as we continue to learn and trust the guidance of God's presence within us, we experience the transition from survival to thrival. Now, some of you are going to complain about the use of thrival because it's actually only recently been coined, but I've been using it for years. There's a debate whether thrival is a word or not. Thrival, of course, combines the words thrive and survival. And the word emphasizes not only surviving challenges, but thriving and flourishing in the midst of those challenges. Thrival implies a proactive and resilient approach to life, where we not only navigate adversities with strength and determination, but we use those adversities to experience opportunities for personal growth. In Exodus 3:16, God tells Moses, "Go and assemble the elders of Israel and say to them, the Lord, the God of your ancestors, the God of Abraham and Isaac and Jacob, has appeared to you, saying, I have witnessed your suffering, and I will bring you up out of the land of misery in Egypt, and I will lead you to a land flowing with milk and honey. They will listen to your voice." God tells Moses, "Go to Pharaoh and say, the God of the Hebrews wants the people to go 3 days into the wilderness to make a sacrifice." And God also says, "Now I know, however, that the king of Egypt will not let you go." You ever heard anybody ever given you advice and then said, "But it probably won't work"? Here's what you got to do, but that won't work. God says, "I know Pharaoh won't let the people go, so I will raise my hand and I will force him." Through the Exodus saga, and indeed throughout the whole Bible, the writers depict God as very anthropomorphic. God acts like a human being. God has human attributes. God says, this is Exodus 3:20, I will stretch out my hand and strike Egypt with all my wonders. And after that, Pharaoh will let you go. What happens? After God gave Moses all of these instructions, Moses was still not convinced. Moses became like you and me and started making up excuses. Exodus 4:1. Then Moses answered, but. Do you hear that word, but? But. Look, they may not believe me or listen to me. The word but is the great qualifier of life. A qualifier is a word that limits or enhances another word's meaning. But the word but is a cognitive qualifier. It negates what came before it, and it affects how we think. I will not go to the party. I'm sorry. I want to go to the party, but I have to do my homework. I want to go for a walk, but I'm tired. And when I add the word but, when I say, but I'm tired to a sentence, is it more likely or less likely that I'm going to take that walk? But can create an argumentative style and make it seem like what came before it doesn't matter. It can create a sense of defensiveness and diminish or undercut the person we're speaking to. We must learn how to get off our butts. As we learn to trust our guidance and the beneficial use of the law of mind action, one of the verbal hacks that we can learn is to substitute the word and instead of the word but. I want to go for a walk and I'm tired. Still a little negative, but it's more likely that you're going to take that walk now. And then when we learn that and can also support a further positive argument. I have made a mistake, and I can learn from this to improve. I didn't get the job I wanted, and I'll keep looking for other opportunities. I have a lot to do, and I can prioritize my tasks to manage them better. Moses has a bad case of the yeah buts. Said God gives him a few convincers. Moses is carrying a staff or a shepherd's crook, and God tells him to throw it on the ground. Moses throws it on the ground, and just like that, it becomes a snake. God tells him to pick it up, and it becomes a staff again. And God says, well, if that doesn't convince Pharaoh, here's one that will. Put your hand inside your cloak. And Moses puts his hand inside his cloak, and when he pulls it out, it's diseased, white with snow, with leprosy. Moses puts his hand back inside his cloak, and this time when he pulls it out, it's back to normal. God tells Moses, and if those two don't convince Pharaoh, here's one that will. Take some water out of the Nile and pour it on the ground, and that water will become blood. Aren't these beautiful miracles that God gave Moses? They sound a little, They sound a little cheesy. It's a little tacky, a little, they sound a little, ugh. Do you think God would rely on such cheap magicians' tricks? Egypt is also known for what? Magic. Magicians. Fakirs. One of the oldest magic tricks ever recorded was a guy by the name, an ancient magician by the name of Dedi. D-J-E-D-I. Dedi. And according to the Westcar Papyrus, Dedi performed magic during the reign of King Khufu in the 4th dynasty. Dedi would pull the head off of a goose and then restore it again, put it back on again. Woo! Egypt is known for magicians and fakirs. Do you think Pharaoh is going to fall for such a cheap trick? Of course not. But that was the plan all along. When I worked in IT, many people thought that my work was magic. People thought that whatever problem they had with their computer, that I could just press a magic button on my desk and their problems would be solved. And some people thought that if something that they didn't like happened to their computer, that it was something that I did. It's a form of magical thinking. And part of my job was to convince them that diagnosing their computer problem involved a process. It involved using art and science and logic. Magical thinking can be as simple as needing to wear that special jersey on game day. But magical thinking can also be a real problem for some people. Some people with magical thinking may have frequent thoughts that they are somehow responsible for something terrible happening. That if they don't perform a specific action, something bad is going to happen. For example, they might think that someone is going to break in if they don't lock the door 7 times. We're currently using the Exodus saga as a vehicle to learn more about the law of mind action. And some people come into Unity or New Thought and they tune in to our message about the law of mind action, and they believe that by saying a few affirmations, just saying a few right words, that magically their lives will change. Affirmations are not magic incantations. They do not change reality. They do not change God's mind about us. God loves us with an everlasting love. How could you possibly change God's mind? Affirmations and other forms of prayer are consciousness conditioners. They do not change reality. They change us. Repeating affirmations does not make things come true. But using affirmations to change our consciousness has a powerful effect on our lives. Change your mind, you change your life. Finally, Moses had one more excuse. He had to talk to people. He had to give a public speech. In Exodus 4:10, he says, "Oh, my Lord, I have never been eloquent. I am slow of speech and slow of tongue." Now, depending on who you ask, 40 to 75% of people have a fear of public speaking. People fear public speaking more than death. People would rather die than speak in public. And 10% of people with public speaking anxiety say it interferes with their daily lives. God finally says, "That's enough, Moses. I've heard all I'm going to hear. You're going to do it. Get off your butt and do it." Now I'm paraphrasing a little bit. God asks Moses, "Who gives speech to mortals? Now go, I will be with you. I will be your mouth, and I will teach you what to say. God even gives Moses, it tells Moses that he can have his brother Aaron as a spokesperson. Let Aaron do all the talking. But we'll see as we go through the story that Moses does all the talking. That's it. God has given Moses his commission to free the people and overcome. God overcame all of Moses' objections. Get off your butt, Moses, and do it. And I have a question for you. What is your commission? What mission of freedom are you called to? Where is the Christ of your being guiding you? And what excuses are standing in your way? Get off your butt. Change your mind. And change your life. God bless you all. This is our opportunity, yours and mine, to pour out the gift of God from within us through our tithes and our love offerings. And can we share this offertory blessing together? Divine love flowing through me blesses and multiplies all that I am, all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive. I am joy-filled and grateful. Thank you, God. And you can send your gifts, your tithes, your love offerings to paypal.me/UnityLincoln. That's paypal.me/UnityLincoln. And by the way, people see right there on that side, we've put up a new a little code. If you scan that code, it'll take you right to paypal.me/UnityLincoln. You can also support Unity Lincoln by sending your gifts to Unity Lincoln, P.O. Box 30209, Lincoln, Nebraska 68503. Or you can go to our webpage at unitylincoln.org, and there you will find a convenient link to donate via PayPal. You can also help support Unity Lincoln by liking us on Facebook and subscribing on YouTube. And give and God gives it back to you. Give and God gives it back to you. Give and God gives it back to you. Pressed down, shaken together, running over, back in good measure. God gives it back to you. Sing it over, give and God gives it back to you. Give and God gives it back to you. Give and God gives it back to you. Pressed down, shaken together, running over, back in good measure. God gives it back to you. Scooby-Dooby-Dooby-Dooby-Doo. And let us share this affirmation for our church family. Together, Unity Lincoln is blessed to draw the people, funds, and all that is required for the health and growth of our community.